Welcome into Schott and Vipp, a podcast brought to you by Inside Carolina this college football season. I'm Taylor Vippolis. He's Jeff Schoettmer. We are both Carolina football lettermen, breaking it down game by game. Before we get started today's shot, I have to remind everybody we've moved our website. We're all part of the new site at On3. It's the same staff, the same standard, just a new home on the On3 network. You'll need to create a new account and get a new subscription, but you could join now for just $1. Go to InsideCarolina.com to learn more. Schott. UNC falls to 4-6. They lose 28-12 at Wake Forest. Another ugly football game. I don't feel bad for anybody that missed this game. There were times in this game where I was like, man, if I didn't have to do this podcast today, probably would have turned it off because it was getting that bad. Watching this team play football at times. Opening thoughts from this?
Despite how ugly of a game it was, I'm looking back and, this morning thinking about what I'm going to say. And we get the ball with 6:50 to go in the fourth quarter. We're down 21-12 after all the bad stuff that's happened, 2 field goals blocked. And I'm thinking in my head, look, we got the ball with 6:50 to go. We should be down 21-15 at worst, maybe 21-18. Like, we were in the game with 6 minutes to go. And despite everything that happened and how poor we played, on all 3 phases, we were somewhat in it. I mean, I guess that's the optimist view of it. But, I thought Wake Forest outcoached us. They were more disciplined. They were more physical. They had better scheme. They had more creativity. They played with more fire and passion. Like, I just felt like we were kind of sleepwalking out there from all the phases. Like, you look at our field goal unit, it's not that hard to block an opposing D-line on field goal for a second and a half. And, we've been good at it all year, and it's just a lack of focus and lack of execution for us to have 2 blocked field goals in a game. So I really thought this game was a step back after the previous 4 weeks where we showed some flash and showed some growth as a team. And I'm just hoping this doesn't kind of halt the momentum that we made progress with over the last few weeks. I don't want us to carry this bad performance into, Duke and State, and then now we look up and we're 4-8 to end the year after potentially, last podcast talking about there's a real opportunity. We win 2 out of 3 and go to a bowl game. So the season, it's really been a roller coaster. I mean, up and down emotions. We've been very down on the team. We've been high on the team at times. Not only the team, but the coaching staff and everyone associated with the program. So I'm really just hoping that, we don't snowball into the rest of the season and lose two bad ones to end it. And we look back at the season and because we've done that throughout the weeks. Like, if, a touchdown here and a 2-point conversion there and we're 6-3. Well, we're 4-6 right now. And we got 2 teams that, have winning records, right? NC State and Duke. To finish the season, or they're around 500. So, it could turn out into a 4-8 season and, not really any momentum going into the offseason. So that's kind of my opening thoughts.
Yeah, I think this game highlighted, especially when you bring in Bill Belichick, you can't be talking about a team getting outcoached, out-schemed by Wake Forest, who goes out and makes a new hire this offseason to somebody who doesn't even have half the accomplishments that somebody like Bill Belichick has. So I think that's really the most disappointing part of this North Carolina football season, where it's like there have been multiple games where they've gotten out coached, they've gotten out schemed, and it's just a team that's looking for answers. I know we're going to talk about the offense. We're going to talk about how much the quarterback handcuffs this team at times, but when we're starting in the preseason, if you would have told me that this North Carolina team would get out-coached and out-schemed as much as they have, I would say something is severely wrong, and there's some level of disconnect there. There was a few moments in this game where there were some head-scratching coaching decisions, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on them. One of them was Carolina calls a timeout to end the fourth quarter instead of just instead of taking the delay of game and getting to the fourth quarter. It would have been the way Reese was kicking feels like it would have been a given, going from 45 to 49. playing in those one-score games, you're most likely going to need those timeouts at the end, especially with how Carolina's defense has played. It would have been 45-49. They burn the timeout. The field goal still gets blocked. And then the other decision that I thought was a bit interesting with just the flow of the game, Carolina on a 4th and 10 from Wake's 29. It's a two-score game. They kick a field goal with 11 minutes left. And you know what they say, when you can make a two-score game, you got to go ahead and do it. And that felt like one where Carolina could have been a little more aggressive there.
Was that when we were down 12 and we kicked it to go down 9?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. What were your
the announcer said he's like, they should kick it to make it a one-score game. And I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, if we make this field goal, we're still down two possessions. I don't know what math classes he took, but I think he corrected himself. But I agree with that one. I mean, in terms of go for it, play like I thought we coached this game very, very passively, and at times we have done that all year. The biggest coaching blunder, in my opinion, and I could go on a rant for 30 minutes about this, but it was the coaching decision. We get the ball 1 minute and 47 seconds in the first half. Okay, we are down 14-3, and we have 2 timeouts. We get the ball on the 25-yard line. That is in college football, in high school football, and in NFL, it doesn't matter what level of football, that is an eternity. 147 with 2 timeouts, and we know we get the ball at half. That should be your most aggressive play calling of all time. Like, think back to when we had Mitch and Drake and Sam. If we had the ball with a 2-minute drill, 147 with 2 timeouts, we are guaranteeing points. We are going to be as aggressive and as fast and up tempo as we can to push the ball downfield, be aggressive, put pressure on the Wake defense. You're already in the way the season's gone. You're under 500. You have a chance to be very aggressive. Like, what do you have to lose? And we have no resemblance of a 2-minute drill. We're muddle huddling. We're wasting time. We're taking 40, 50 seconds to get a play off in between plays. Obviously the late hit from Wake Forest's safety kind of recatalyzes the drive, restarts the drive. And, we're able to get a 57-yarder out of it, which is, it saved us 3 points. But the fact that we don't, as a coaching staff, have confidence in our play caller and our quarterback to even attempt to be aggressive on a 2-minute drive before the half is absolutely mind-blowing. I'm texting all my group chats like, this is what you want in your quarterback, is to let it rip, go empty, up tempo, like give them a chance to get the ball downfield. And we did not do that. And that was the most frustrating coaching decision of the game. It was just the most passive BS of all time, where why not? What do you have to lose of trying to rip it downfield, throw some up tempo? I know you practice 2-minute drill every day in practice. Like, do we not have the trust in our quarterback? And I know we probably don't, but like, why not go down swinging? That was my biggest coaching blunder in the game. And there was a couple other one-offs that, we can talk about, but that to me was a microcosm of our season of just coaching passive and not letting it rip. So that to me was the most frustrating thing.
Yeah. So I have the play-by-play here. It's 1st and 10 from the 25. Gio Lopez has a 7-yard rush at 129 to get you to the 32-yard line. 129, that play is snapped. They don't get the next play off until 47 seconds. So 40 seconds goes by before Carolina, before Gio Lopez runs it again and picks up a first down. And yeah, there's just no urgency from this team when they're running offense. And I think a lot of it does come back to your quarterback and your play caller. And the numbers, so I'm looking on Pro Football Focus. The highest graded player from this North Carolina team on offense was Gio Lopez. He graded out a 76.4. You look at the box score, 21 of 36, 201 yards. Okay, he doesn't turn the ball over. Those numbers might pass the eye test at first, but if you're watching him, I think my biggest takeaway from this game was, as a fan, as an alum, as somebody who cares about this team, you have to go in with the mindset of the coaches are playing the person that they think gives them the best chance to win the game. If you don't have that belief, It's a bigger problem. So under that notion that Gio Lopez does give North Carolina the best chance to win, it says a lot about this quarterback room and where these quarterbacks are at, because we're past the point where if one of these freshmen was ready, okay, you could still preserve their red shirt. There's only 3-4 games left in the season at this point to where they could still play and maintain that red shirt. If these quarterbacks aren't ready now, you're kind of going into the offseason and being like, hey, we have to restart the entire process. We have to clean house in the quarterback room and get people that can come here and can compete. Because are you kind of in that same camp with me where it's like, if Bryce Baker or Newkirk can't play now, where's that confidence that all of a sudden next spring and next fall they're going to take this huge leap to pass Gio Lopez, who, when you're watching Gio Lopez, nothing about him screams high D1 quarterback.
Yeah, I want to give my take on redshirting in 2025. So this is not 2012 when coaching staffs would recruit and develop and redshirt guys and expect them to be at the college for 4 to 5 years. If you redshirt in 2025, you are wasting a year. Okay? Like, it's hard enough to keep a guy year by year. Like, we could expect a bunch of guys to transfer after this year. So why do you think a redshirt year is going to do anything? Granted, Bill might not be here in 4 years. So, like, wasting a redshirt year, like, what do they if they're not playing this year, they could transfer anyway. So, like, my thing on the quarterback is I do think that they think that Gio gives them the best opportunity to win. And I think they're playing him because of that, because other positions, whether it's D-line, receiver, they are willing to throw in other guys. So our coaching staff has shown that they're going to play guys that didn't play earlier in the year, and they're going to rotate them in. So at the quarterback position, I trust that they're going to do the same. So obviously the other quarterbacks, they haven't developed them enough, or they aren't ready to go in the game. So they do think that Gio is the guy, which, like you said, that's very telling of our quarterback development, our quarterback recruiting. Like, we just don't have a guy better than Gio right now, and that's alarming. So, but like, if we're going to not play him because we want a red shirt, I might completely disagree with that, because players have shown in college football that they're going to leave after a year or two regardless. So red shirting is a waste, in my opinion.
And I think some people will point at Carolina's lack of run game and be like, the reason why Gio Lopez might not be having success is the lack of run game. You see Wake Forest shuts down Carolina's run game completely, where Carolina averages, looks like a little over 2 yards per carry per rush. There's a lack of run game because the blueprint is out for this North Carolina team. Stack the box, and if Gio Lopez has to throw the ball 40 times, good luck. If we're a defense and we're stacking the box and we're forcing Gio Lopez to throw the ball all over the place, we're going to like our chances to win this game. So I don't even think you could use the lack of a run game as an excuse for Gio Lopez, because mostly the lack of a run game stems from the fact that he's not that big of a threat as a passer.
Yeah, I mean, while we're talking about Gio, let's just continue to talk about the offense. I get that his PFF numbers were he was the highest offensive performer. That doesn't say much with our offense, not scoring a touchdown this game. But to me, without even diving into the film, just watching it unfold in real time, I know that he does not read coverages well at all. Like, even on these quick hitters where we have 5 guys out in the route, like it's called a scat protection, where the running back is immediately releasing to the flat or releasing on a route. That should define the coverage right now. And Gio is not assertive with the football. He is double patting the ball. Like, on a 5-out route, the ball should be out under 1 second, and he is not seeing the field clearly. He doesn't understand quarters and cover 2 and, the different coverages they can run. And that, to me, is the most alarming thing. If you're not going to have an overpowering arm, you're not going to be able to throw the ball down the field well. Like, you need to be elite in your decision making on these quick passes. And there was multiple times in the game where that really hurt us. Obviously we had a couple drops. McGill had 2. Our O-line really couldn't create movement, but like you said, Wake Forest was stacking the box and had some good run pressures. And part of that is they're designed to stop the run, but also like our offense is very predictable in our formations of when we're going to run. Our third down offense and our red zone offense continues to be atrocious. 4 of 14 on third down. We get to the red zone 4 times and punch the ball in the end zone 0 out of 4. I would be interested to see our team statistics on offense, our red zone offense. I bet it's in the bottom 10% of the country. We are just not scoring touchdowns. We aren't sustaining drives. And, it's the other thing about Gio. So we had a big play, 3rd and 8. We're in the Wake Forest red zone. Wake Forest lines up in a cover 0 look. We're an empty. So it's easy to see the coverage, easy to see the defensive line, easy to see what Wake Forest is showing. They have 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. Simple math. We have 5 offensive linemen to block them. As the quarterback in that situation, that if there's 6 rushers, there's potential for all 6 to rush, right? So your 5 offensive linemen can block 5 of them. That leaves the free rusher to you. And Gio, They do all blitz. They blitz 6 of them, and Gio is holding the ball, patting it, looking left and right, and eventually takes a sack. And that, to me, that one play just showed me he doesn't understand offensive line protections. He doesn't understand blitz patterns. Like, that is such a simple play that we saw Drake May and Sam and these high-level quarterbacks execute flawlessly. And, there's just multiple examples throughout the game of him not being able to read defenses, throw the ball where it dictates, and it's really hurting us. So that's part of the reason for our, red zone lack of success and our third down lack of success. But just a tough offensive performance. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, if you had to sum up Gio Lopez's performances in one word, or his quarterback play in one word, it's just late. He's just late. Yes. on everything. I'm looking up Carolina's red zone numbers right now. They've scored touchdowns on 44.8% of their red zone trips this year out of 136 teams at the FBS level. 129th shot.
That was right.
That felt like a game where if you told Freddie Kitchens, Gio Lopez, and this offense, hey, you guys are not allowed to leave Wake Forest until you score a touchdown, they would still be out there. Because when they kicked that field goal to make it from a 12-point game to a 9-point game, it felt like Carolina's thought process in that moment was like, okay, we just have to get Reese 3 more field goals, and this game is going to be tied up before we know it. Like, they never felt like they could have scored a touchdown in that game.
No, I completely agree with that. And again, it goes back to passive coaching. When you kick a field goal down 12, what was it, midway through the third, late in the third, or was it the fourth quarter?
It was the fourth.
It was the fourth, yeah. Right? Like, I get it. We don't have a lot of plays in our playbook designed to get 10 yards. Most offenses, 10 yards seems like a lot, but like they have a few, tools in their toolbox to get 10 yards on a play. And we just, we don't have that. And again, it goes back to my point. Like, what else do you have to lose? Like, you're under 500, you're scrapping to get to a bowl game. Like, why not go down swinging? It's the same thing as, the last drive in the first half of, like, we are not aggressively play calling. We're not aggressively coaching, and, our passiveness doesn't win you games. Like, I'm watching Kirby Smart. I'm watching Georgia and Texas last night, and Kirby Smart goes for it twice on 4th down, and they obviously have success on those 2 4th downs, and it blows the game open. But, like, that's aggressive coaching, and we don't have that right now. So
it feels like for 10 years now we've been talking about Carolina trying to close that gap between, like, those Georgia Texas games, and the more we talk about it, the further away we get from it. Because I'm watching that game too after the Carolina Wake Forest game, and it just feels like a different sport at times when you're watching some of those high level teams. But a quick break so I can remind everybody about our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. If If you're going to be in Chapel Hill, you could visit Johnny T-Shirt on Franklin Street. And if not, no worries. You can go online to johnnytshirt.com. They have everything that the Carolina fan could possibly want. The hats, the T-shirts, the jerseys, you name it, they've got it. Carolina basketball is now underway. They've got a great selection of Carolina basketball gear. And don't forget, Inside Carolina premium subscribers save 10% off their orders. Support the people that support us, and nobody supports us like our friends at Johnny T-Shirt. Shot, it felt like Carolina was really lacking complementary football, where if sometimes you need the defense to bail you out, the defense gives up a 70-yard bomb. If you need the special teams to help you out, you get 2 field goals blocked. We talked about the offense. What are you kind of seeing from this team? Just a lack of complementary football.
In this game, it was, I think, the most evident it's been all year. Obviously the 2 blocked field goals that loses 6 points. I do get we kind of made up for it with the 56-yarder, so that negates 3 of the points. So I guess we're -3 in that game in terms of special teams. But this was the first game to me where I kind of saw some frustration from the defense in terms of, look, they did get 2 turnovers. They did get a 4th and 2 stop to get the ball back to our offense, and they did force a fumble in the first half to put the ball on Wake's 31-yard line. And for those 2 turnovers, we have 0 points to show for it. And so, the UNC defense, I get it. They've been good at up and down at times. And to me, they weren't as bad as the score dictates in this game. I get it. They let up 28 points, but they're doing their job at times to put the offense in favorable positions, and we cannot capitalize from an offense. And for us to create 2 turnovers and there's 0 points to show for it, like, that is the ultimate lack of complementary football. And that was, kind of the name of the game, because I get it. The last touchdown, they go up 28-12, and that the score kind of doesn't dictate it. But if we get a field goal or a touchdown on one of those after one of those turnovers, like, it's a 1-possession game, and we, have, like I said, we have the ball with 6 minutes, 50 seconds to go, like, be able to drive and either tie the game or win the game. So the game wasn't too far off, but just our inability for our offense to capitalize on, critical situations where they are in the advantage and they can be aggressive, and they just aren't doing it. So, it's frustrating to see, and you never want, when one side of the ball is superior to the other, you never want them to be frustrated with the side of the ball that isn't producing. But in my opinion, we kind of finally saw it, where the defense was hanging their head at the end of the game, because they felt, through 90% of the game up until that last drive, they played well enough for us to win the game. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I have this stat. Well, first I want you to guess. What do you think Carolina's record is when they score 20 points or more this season? In 9 games.
I think how many times have we done it?
Score 20 or more?
5?
4.
3-1.
4-0.
4-0. Okay.
So when Carolina does not score 20 points, they are 0-5. Just
tough.
shocking.
That's tough. I mean, we're used to seeing 20 points in the first half. Sometimes first quarter.
It's like that Wolverine meme where he's in the bedroom and he's looking at the photograph.
Yep.
That's how I feel like Carolina fans are watching Drake May right now and the Patriots and being like, man, I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days while you were still in the good old days. Because even the lack of aggressiveness, when you were talking about that earlier in the podcast, I was thinking like, hey, if there was 15, 20 seconds left on the clock and we have Marquise Williams at quarterback, Mac Hollins, Quinshaw Davis, Ryan Switzer at wide receiver, it's kind of like that Patrick Mahomes, like Josh Allen mentality from that AFC Championship game, where it's like, if there's 15 seconds left on the clock, you left us too much time. We are going to take shots deep. And right now, this offense doesn't have it. And then I think you saw that, as you mentioned, kind of leak into the defense for the first time. I thought there were some.
I want something to add to that. If there's any year to be super aggressive on the offensive side of the ball, it's probably this year, because our defense is better than it was when we had Drake and Sam. So like you can take more chances offensively and be aggressive because you know you have a better defense that can potentially stop them or turn the ball over or whatever. So that's the way I look at it. The better your defense is, the more aggressive your offense can be. But you go back to the old two quarterbacks, and we were aggressive with the quarterbacks regardless of how good our defense was. So it's kind of interesting dynamic to me.
Yeah, it feels like Carolina's going into these games knowing how bad their offense is and being like, let's try to hide them as much as possible and hope your defense wins you games. And when you do that, you know, 5, 10 possessions and the defense is like, hey, offense isn't scoring. We kind of have to up our performances. You do have a tendency to press a bit and kind of leaked into the defense. What did you see from this defense overall? Because I do think they had their moments limiting a pretty mobile quarterback, but then they have the very fluke play where they force a fumble, it gets scooped up for a touchdown, and then my biggest critique of the defense was on Carlos Hernandez's 70-yard touchdown, where it just felt like there was a lot of bad angles to the ball.
100%. And in my opinion, you have to watch the game in its entirety to like get a full evaluation of our defense. So Wake Forest scored 4 touchdowns. The first touchdown was that 50-yard fumble recovery that was very flukish, right? The second touchdown comes after which I thought we got a 4th and 2 stop, around the 40 or 50. And, the second effort from Ashford gets the first down. They go to the booth and they overturn it. They score a couple plays later. So those first 2 touchdowns, we force a fumble. We have a chance to jump on it and, get another turnover, and then they go down and score. So it's a, kind of a 14-point swing there. And then the second one, obviously, we think we get a 4th down stop. Obviously, you got to play to the whistle. We stopped him on his initial surge, but, they kept driving their legs, and obviously they got the first down and then go down a few plays later and score. So, and then the touchdown at the end of the game is the final touchdown. But I do agree with you that the only true like upsetting touchdown to me was that flea flicker, because we kind of were battling back at that point. I think it was the third quarter when that happened, and the defense kind of resorted back to bad angles and bad tackling and lack of effort that they've shown in prior games. Clemson game and TCU game and UCF game. That 70-yard flea flicker was kind of a backbreaker. Because in my opinion, we tackled and we played the run pretty decently. And I'm talking about the design handoff runs from the quarterback. I'm not talking about, the quarterback on design runs. I'm not talking about him scrambling for first downs, but, people want to look at the stats and it's 225 given up. But if you take out the last drive and that 50-yard, fumble recovery for a touchdown, it's, we're letting up 100 to 120 yards in that game. And that's not a bad number for Wake's offense, because they do have a very mobile quarterback. So the thing that Wake did a good job offensively of was they know that Ashford isn't a great like pocket passer. They're not going to do much 3-step, 5-step, just traditional passing game with him. The way they move the ball with him and his arm is misdirect and zone read stuff, and he gets outside the pocket and hitting the guy in the flat. They did do a bunch of good stuff with that. We didn't get any pressure really on true drop back, which again there was very little of, but in the previous 4 games, we were able to rush 3 and 4 guys on traditional passes and get pressure on the quarterback, and we just didn't have that today. Again, I thought our defense was finally frustrated with our lack of ability from the offense, and that hampered them a little bit, not giving them a free pass there. But other than the last drive, again, I think we stopped them for the most part on design runs. There was a couple of times where Ashford picked up first downs with his legs, and that hurt us. And look, that's tough in college football when you have a very mobile quarterback, and you got to be able to get him down when it's 3rd and 10 and 3rd and 14 and he's scrambling around. Like that takes the wind out of his sails when you play great defense on 1st and 2nd down, force him to 3rd and long, and the quarterback picks up a first down with his legs. That's the most frustrating thing for a defensive coordinator and for a defense as a whole, because you played great defense, but you get out athleted by a really good, athlete at the quarterback position, and he's able to extend drives. And So all in all, like my grade on the defense, it's not as bad as what the score indicates, but we got to find a way to get stops, and obviously the last drive where they go down and score, I think there was a little bit of frustration from our defense in terms of they thought the game was over. We were down 9. They know our offense can't score. And yes, Wake Forest did bleed the clock and, punch it in at the end. I thought it was, our worst drive of the game other than the 70-yard flea flicker.
Yeah, and a drive that probably a final result of the drive that probably shouldn't have even happened. Carolina calls a timeout with like 30 seconds left, down 9 on the 2-yard line when Wake Forest was most likely just going to let the clock run out there. And Dicker kind of sticks it to Carolina for calling the timeout. Make us play to the final whistle. We'll make you guys play to the final whistle.
In my opinion, I don't mind Bill calling that timeout because Wake wasn't kneeling the ball. The play before that on third down, they were in the I formation and they were trying to score. Like they had the ability to take a knee and they didn't. So, I mean, out of all the coaching errors we had in that game, I don't think that calling a timeout was the worst one.
I don't think it was an error per se, but I don't think Wake Forest would have tried to score on that fourth down try if Bill didn't call the timeout, because it had gotten to the point where it's like, okay, let's try to get in first down, second down, third down. No, now the play clock is greater than the game clock. Let's let this one go. But yeah, that's in terms of the list of complaints, that is so far down the list. But now Carolina puts themselves in a position where you have to win out against your two biggest rivals to get to a bowl game, not somewhere where I think the Carolina fan thought they would be at this point in the season through 10 games. But the situation that Carolina football is in nonetheless. We'll see how Carolina bounces back this Saturday, 3:30 kick from Kenan Stadium in Chapel Hill against Duke for the Battle of the Victory Bell. ACC Network, Schott will be back next week to break it all down. Appreciate the time as always, and appreciate everybody watching and listening.
Appreciate everyone. And I'm going to be very curious. I'm going to be tuned into these last two games to see how we respond, how we bounce back from this performance. Because we do have the ability to win a bowl game or go to a bowl game with these two wins. So I'm very curious to see how we come out as a team and how we, if we just come out flat and just kind of roll over and go to the offseason. Are we, aggressive? Are we, competing in these games? Like I'm very, very curious to see which team we get. We get the second half of Wake Forest team, or do we get the, first half of Stanford and Cal and those type of games? We'll see what happens.